are from S5, huh? Rakesh?
അതെ അതെ
Yes, sir. S5.
S5 ECE.
യെസ്.
Okay. I want to share one thing. Can you call me? I will give one number.
Sir, should I call now or after this webinar?
Then after now itself.
Sir, 1 minute. Just grab my pen.
അതെ.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Note down. 85477
85477
48188.
48188.
Please call me now itself.
85477 48188.
Yeah. Call now itself. Very urgent. I want to share one thing.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Sridhar.
Yeah, sir. This is Punmani Raja. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sir, I just wanted to check if
Yeah,
the slides
please.
are visible.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'll just share the PPT.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sir, is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay. I'm just going to change the slides. Please let me know, sir.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This.
Is visible?
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
But screen is some clarity, not that much clarity is there. I don't know. But
To me, it shows really clear, sir. The PPT.
okay, sir. Okay. But the slide it has changed, sir. There is
Yes, sir. I'm changing the slides.
Yeah. Changing now.
Yes, sir. I'm changing it now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Is this visible, sir? This is the first.
Visible, but I don't know that the screen is not
Okay.
that much clarity. I don't know, sir.
Okay.
Whether our end is any problem, I don't know, sir. I'll
Okay.
check, sir.
Yeah, let me just check, sir.
Yeah.
How about now, sir?
Now it's pakka, sir.
Now it's good?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Now
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier I was sharing the screen, entire screen. Now I'm sharing only a tab. So that's why it's more clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to all the participants, and I warm welcome to Dr. Sridhar sir. I invite Ashwini to give the introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on opportunities and challenges for 6G wireless technology, jointly organized by the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, ISTE, and ECSA. Let's start the session with silent prayer. I welcome everyone on the behalf of our conveyor, Dr. Jose P. Tharatil, event coordinators Mr. Ponmani Raja sir and Ms. Sarita P. Our chief speaker of the day is Dr. Sridhar Iyer. Dr. Sridhar Iyer received his degree in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Mumbai University, India in 2005, and MS degree in Electrical and Communication Engineering from New Mexico State University, USA in 2008, and the PhD degree from Delhi University, India in 2017. He is also a recipient of the Young Scientist Award from the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India in the year 2013. He is the author of an international book titled Optical Performance in the Presence of Physical Layer Impairments, published by LAP Publishers 2018. Currently, he is the Dean, Research and Development and IPR Cell Coordinator at SG Belagundra Institute of Technology, Belgavi, where he also serves as an associate professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. He is also a designated reviewer to various high-impact journals such as PNET, Springer, IEEE, Elsevier, and so on. He is also on the review panel of multiple national and international funding agencies. His current research focus indicates terahertz communication and spectrum enhancement techniques for 6G communications and efficient design and research optimization of the FlexiGrid YON-enabled SDM. He has published over 70 reviewed articles in international and national journals and conferences. We are very pleased to have you here, sir. I welcome you to take over the session.
Thank you, Ms. Ashwini. I thank the HOD and the coordinators who have given me this opportunity to interact with all of you. I hope I'm audible. One of you can please confirm.
Yes, sir, audible, sir.
Okay, and I hope I'm visible as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll quickly share my screen. So I hope my screen is also visible.
Yes, sir, it's coming.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I could see on the list before sharing the screen that predominantly, everybody is a student, and so I would assume most of you are UG students, probably in your final year. So maybe you have come in with a mindset that I'm going to talk about something which is probably rocket science, so to say. But please remember that our next generation, that is you guys, you're going to really change the society, in the sense of technology. So whatever we see in, let's say, movies, for instance, mostly the Hollywood movies, that is actually going to come true. So the the holographic images and the sensors on the body, all those things are actually going to come true, and I'll give you an insight of that in my presentation. So just before I start, I just wanted to tell all the students here, it really doesn't matter which semester you are in, which year you are in. There's no particular age, qualification, or designation to know about new things. And 6G definitely is something that will be there in our society very soon. already 5G is being deployed, but 6G will come in, and the students of today will be making much use of this 6G. So the responsibility will be on you people, the students, to really explain to our society why we have jumped to 6G. Right. So I just wanted to give you that motivation before getting on to the with my presentation. So I thought, what is the best way to start this session? And everything starts with a motivation. So I just picked up pictures over the internet just to motivate the participants. How we have evolved as a society starting 2010 till 2020. Actually, I have not put a picture before 2010 because predominantly in those times before 2010, we were still using the mobile phone for voice communication. We were still talking to each other. Of course, SMS was there, but we were still talking, right? So as Alexander Graham Bell had invented the phone for talking, the trunk calls that were made, and for which 4 kilohertz bandwidth is still sufficient. We were still kind of doing that before 2010 predominantly, but after 2010 it has just been a drastic advancement in technology, and we've jumped from you can see what the kid is doing in 2010 to what the girl is doing in 2020, and you can see what have happened to the devices as well. So they've become smart. We use this term very loosely: smart homes, smart devices, and everything is smart. So you can see what has happened from 2010 to 2020, and you can see what is supposed to happen, or what we envision would happen from 2020 to 2030. So as I was just mentioning, we are going to look at, of course, drones are still there, but they'll become more prevalent. We'll get used to it. There's going to be holograms for sure. We talk a lot about augmented reality and virtual reality. There's going to be a mix of that, which is known as mixed reality, and I'll come to that in probably 15 to 20 minutes from now. So that is the motivation, where we were as a society and where we are now, and what we aspire to be as a society in terms of technology. Of course, there's no comparison between humans and machines, but just to again motivate the participants. Of course, the machine is always going to be better than humans. It's going to exceed the human limitations, as it's written there. And now we are starting to make the machines learn. So really, the machines are going to leave us humans way behind, because they are much more efficient. And then once they start learning, you really don't have to manually operate the machines. They'll be automated themselves. Right? Just put in this as a motivation. So next is just a retrospect, and the people who work on wireless, who are interested in the wireless domain, would know that wireless actually stems from Marconi's demonstration of telegraphy. This was done in the 19th century, and then theoretically it is based on Shannon's theorem. Of course, entire communication is based on Lord Shannon's theorem in 1948. How the capacity and the frequency are related, but predominantly wireless communication is theoretically dependent on the Shannon's theorem. So how we have evolved in the 1980s, we had 1G. It was an analog technology, and like I mentioned before, Alexander Graham Bell's invention, we were still using the mobile phones or the phones for voice. We were still talking to each other. Now, but then we went from analog to digital for obvious reasons, more specifically because we got more distance out of it. So we digitized the network and started calling it cellular network, which replaced the 1G. The advantage we got was we were getting services, data services specifically, which were encrypted. So we had some kind of security, and we had SMS, which is the messaging services we had. Then early 21st century, end of 1990s, start of 2000s, we came up with 3G, right? And there we had a lot of good technologies like CDMA. We had CDMA 2000. We had the WiMAX. The whole idea of this 3G was basically to have various data services. So you had video calls. Of course, at that moment, Skype was the thing to do. We were Skyping each other. You had internet access, which was absolutely very new. It was a luxury if you had internet. And then you had the mobile television. So these were some of the things which started in the early 21st century. And then along came 4G or LTE, the long-term evolution, somewhere around 2009, 2010. And this is when the wireless technology really started to advance. And we started having OFDM. We started having the MIMO antenna technology. And we really got very high speeds. Of course, people have different versions in terms of high speeds, because what is high speed for me may not be high speed for you. But we could get high speed mobile transmission compared to the previous generations, as it's called. So 4G somewhere around 2009 or 10 has really shaped our society, and it has made our society technically advanced. It has, as some say, made our society smart, because we are able to access more. So you can sit anywhere, and if you have the internet access, you can check anything, you can access any document, any video. So we've become smart in that sense. And of course, the devices have also advanced in that sense, in terms of smartphones and tablets and so many other things, right? So that is the retrospect. And now we are currently in a scenario where we are talking in terms of 5G. Of course, I'm sure everyone has heard about India's stance on 5G. Very recently, our IT minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, he had mentioned that India will be going for 5G. Of course, there are some countries who have started the deployment of 5G, China being one of them. So many of you may be wondering, why are we going to talk about 6G? So I'm not jumping the ground here. I'll come to why we are talking about 6G. So let me complete about this 5G. So 5G is not something which is very recent. In fact, the first paper which was published about 5G was in 2014, and that gave us the architecture and the technology which could be used in 5G. And then as the years progressed, there was more streamlining on this 5G technology, and the new radio was done, the standalone functions were done. So somewhere around 2017 or 18, you could say that the entire specification of the 5G was done, was approved, and then slowly they wanted to go in for the deployment. And now in 2020, we are at a place where the deployment of 5G has started. So what are the indicators in terms of what are the challenges in terms of 5G? The very first challenge is to get absolutely very high speed, which is known as enhanced mobile broadband, eMBB. So if you actually go to a service provider who would give you 5G, very soon, they would actually be using these buzzwords, eMBB. You would get eMBB or URLLC, which is actually ultra reliable low latency communication, or a massive machine type communication. I'm sure you have heard of these terms. So these will become the catchphrases. As probably in a year or a couple of years, once India also starts adopting this 5G. So what are the wireless technologies for 5G? They're not much different than what was there in 4G. Of course, there's going to be advancement. So you had not just MIMO, you had massive MIMO, because you require just massive amount of antennas. Advanced coding and modulation. So your usual keying techniques like BPSK or QPSK would not suffice. You needed to go with a hybrid modulation technique, probably a QAM kind of technique, quadrature amplitude modulation. You were not dealing with low frequency, you were actually dealing with millimeter wave communication. So the frequency was high. You were dealing with OFDM, where there was orthogonality between the users, and then there was a lot of flexibility which 5G gives to us. What are the network technologies? Of course, everything is custom made. So there's no fixed let's say cell for a particular person to be in. You could move from one cell to the other cell, and the flexibility was there. You had network slicing. This by itself is a research work in its own way. We had SDN, the software defined networking. So there are many kinds of network technologies for 5G. These are all defined, but which one is actually going to be adopted in which part of the world would be seen once the deployment starts. So what is the actual goal of 5G? I'm sure if there are students of the final year here, specifically, they would be doing a lot of projects on IoT, Internet of Things. But the goal of 5G is not Internet of Things. The goal of 5G is Internet of Everything. So 5G basically talks about providing internet to everybody, to everything. What does that mean? It means whether I'm on Earth, that is, whether I'm terrestrial, whether I'm in a plane, whether I am airborne, whether I'm in a forest, whether I'm in an ocean, it doesn't matter. 5G must give you internet. So that is the whole idea of Internet of Everything. So wherever you are on this earth, it doesn't matter. You must have internet. So we don't have to run up from the basement to the terrace just to search those networks. So that's not going to happen for 5G, right? So Internet of Everything, IoE, is going to be the buzzword very, very soon. So IoT will go away because that's a subset of IoE, right? So Internet of Everything will become the catchphrase. But the problem is that these kind of implementations, if you want to really cover the entire globe, wherever you are, this is not a a job which can be done in a year or a couple of years. It is going to take a long time, right? So the goal of 5G, of course, that the goal is there, but can it be met over a period of 1, 2, or 3 years is to be seen, and most likely that is not going to happen because we are deploying 5G right now, and the way that we the humans have collected and dumped the data, and so much of bandwidth usage is there. I don't think 5G will be able to provide that kind of Internet of Everything. So this is I'm just highlighting to you what is the requirement of 6G right now, because 5G may not be able to provide whatever it is aiming at. Provide those things to us. So what are the issues that 5G would basically face? Of course, this is still a topic of research. We still have to see from deployment. What are the future actual demands? The demands are just ridiculously increasing. They are exponential demands. The kind of data that we dump every day over the cloud is just huge. So what is going to be the future demands? We do not know. Please keep in mind, all the participants, we are not talking about voice at all. So we are not talking about what the phone was actually invented for. We are actually here talking about data, right? So we are using the phone for just data, that's all. Right? So what are going to be the future actual demands? We do not know. What will be the ecology from an industry point of view? We are not still aware. So most likely 5G, this is an important point. Most likely 5G would turn out to be on the same line as what happened to 1G and 2G. That is, 1G is the one that specified voice, but actually voice came in on a large scale to 2G. So it's in wireless technology, it's known as 1G short because it was short of its goal, and 2G long because 2G exceeded what it's meant. Again, 3G is the one that defined internet, but actually the large scale implementation of internet was given by 4G or LTE. So therefore it is 3G short, 4G long. We'll probably see 5G short, 6G long, in the sense that 5G may not be able to give us all the things which it is promising to do to give us. Rather, it would be 6G that would actually give us. So it makes sense for us to sit and ponder over what 6G should look like, because going by the trend, a previous generation of wireless technology may not be fulfilling all its aims, right? So that's the motivation of talking about 6G. So these are the trends, and this really certifies what I was just saying. And you can see that as the years move by, the gap between the previous and the subsequent generation is just minimizing. That means the way we want wireless technology to improve is getting shorter by the years. So you can see it took a long time for 3G to 4G, but it took a very short time for 5G to 6G, or it will take a very short time for 5G. Okay? So going by that logic, research on 6G is absolutely right on schedule by both academics as well as industries. In fact, we are sitting here in 2021, just entered 2021. The idea of 6G has already started. It was started way back in 2016-17. The early papers published in regard to 6G which were actually called as next generation 5G, were actually sometime between 2015 to 16, and really those articles started coming in 2017. So it's not something new. It's been there, but now it's picked up space because 5G is getting deployed slowly. Right? So this is what I was telling you just a while back. 2G was the best solution for voice mobile communication, but voice was actually defined in 1G. So 1G was kind of short. 2G went a little more than what it was going to offer. Same thing with 4G and 3G as well. And most likely it's going to happen between 5G and 6G. Okay? So an intro to 6G, what will 6G do for us? It's going to give us what 5G is not able to give to us with enhanced capacity. And by capacity, I mean bandwidth, which is what the users want, with absolutely penetrative coverage anywhere you go, and internet of everything. So that is what 6G is going to give to us in comparison to 5G. The peak data rate, which is somewhere around 100 Gbps, will increase 100-fold, and you will start 10-fold, and you would get 1000 Gbps. That's a huge rate, right? Your user experience in terms of data rate will go 10 times as well. The energy and the spectral efficiency will increase twice. I'm sure everyone is aware of what spectral efficiency, how much data you can transmit per hertz of frequency. So that's going to become 2 times. Your latency will decrease, reliability will increase. The number of mobile or the users who can be catered by the service providers will increase, massively, around 10 times. So more and more, because more and more people are going to purchase mobile, more and more people can afford it. Therefore, the connections are also going to increase. Right? So that is what 6G is going to provide. However, there is no clear description. Makes sense because we have just started to speak about 6G. So there's no clear description of what 6G is. Therefore, we are sitting here talking about, what 6G should look like. And as I was telling you a while back, this is something not new. People have already started, working on 6G back in 2017 and 2016, in fact. So a lot of work started, in US, in Europe. Now it's come to Asia, Southeast Asia. Slowly, it's picking up in India. Majorly because of our population, and the affordability of mobile phones and connections has drastically improved. Many people can afford it. Therefore, the connection requirements, the coverage, the kind of things people want to do on the phone, that is all advanced. So we're going to see 6G very, very soon. So what is the need for 6G? Of course, this may be a repetition of what I was just saying. You can see what has happened to the global traffic volume. You can see what has happened to every user's subscription. It's just increased exponentially. That's an exponential increase which you are seeing on the slide. So it's not a slow increase. It's an exponential increase. Will not be able to cater to that need. Come 2030. So we really need to talk about real advanced technology, which really gives us a large amount of bandwidth. And the other thing which has happened in the previous generations is that even though they wanted to, the generations wanted to cover most of the people around the globe, but they were not able to do that because it was these generations only focused on terrestrial communication. That means you had a base station, you had the mobile, mobile set, and they were just communicating. Once you were airborne, once you were in the ocean, there was no talk about communication there. We were only limited to terrestrial communication, right? And most of it was limited because of the cost and the technology. Right? But that is not the aim of 6G. 6G actually wants to cover the entire area, and it wants to cover 100% of Earth. It wants to cover 100% of Earth, right? So there are key issues which are challenges to 5G, and basically 6G is going to solve those kind of key issues which are there in 5G. So here is a picture which would again give you some motivation of why we are talking about 6G. So The gap between the ears at the bottom of the picture, you can see it, they're very, very short, but then the gap increases, which basically shows the capability of each and every generation, right? So in 1 and 2G, as I've said, you had voice and text. In 3 and 4, you had picture and video. In 5, we had ultra large, ultra high bandwidth communication. And in 6G, we are expecting much more than that, right? So we're looking at things like hologram and mixed reality and so on and so forth. Right? So the proposed architecture of 6G. So I've put this here, not to really, scare or demotivate the participants, but just to show them that 6G means business. It wants to really cover the entire planet. And if you actually have a close look at this particular diagram, which you see on the slide, you can see that we have underwater communication, we have free space optics communication, and there are satellites there. So I'm going to be sitting down here on the Earth, and then I'm going to have satellite communication. If I go, let's say if I'm airborne on the plane, I'm going to have satellite communication. So it's not going to be a case where I'll be asked to switch off my phone so that there is interference. Rather, I'll be switching to another frequency and I can actually use the phone. So we're going to look at those kind of scenarios. There's a lot of intelligence in this diagram which is mentioned. There's a lot of multiple input, multiple output antennas which are mentioned. The application wise, it will be in terms of robotics, automation, health monitoring. This will become electronic health monitoring. And there's a lot of intelligence involved here. So many of you who are continuous readers and related to this topic would know that very soon we'll be talking about artificial intelligence, because we want to make all of this very, very smart. So this is one of the architectures which has been proposed by 6G for 6G. This is another architecture. You'll find many architectures, but one thing that you'll find common in all the proposed architectures is intelligence. So there's going to be intelligence all over the place, and it makes sense for us to really talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, neural networks, any other algorithm which makes the machines, the entire system smart. Because the kind of communication, the kind of networking which 6G is aiming to provide cannot be done manually. It has to be done in an automated fashion, right? So there are a lot of open problems which are there, and I will come to the open problems. Usually in any generation, in any technique, it is very difficult for the person, the researcher or the student to find a problem. It is exactly the opposite in 6G. You have so many open problems. Your actual problem will be to select a particular problem. There are so many open problems. So you can see the reason why I put this diagram is you can see you can go software, you can go hardware, you can talk about channel coding, because there'll be new channel, and I'll come to that. There'll be a lot of artificial intelligence, which algorithm to use, what kind of software to use, what kind of protocol to use, and I'll come to the protocol as well very soon. Because here now we are not just talking about terrestrial communication, we'll be talking about an integrated communication. That's something which is new, right? So what is the vision of 6G? There's only one vision of 6G: to make our society intelligent. That's all. That's the only vision of 6G. The term ubiquitous means the entire globe. So 6G only aims at one thing: make the entire planet intelligent. You pick out any device, pick out any network, any system, 6G is only going to make it intelligent. That's the aim of 6G. And 6G wants to do this by 2030. And 6G wants to do this for 2030 and beyond. So it's not just going to be there for a decade or so, it will be there for a lifetime. Right? Of course, we are going to see higher versions like 7, 8, 9, 10G. That's bound to happen. But 6G will really change the face of the society in terms of technology. So what are the requirements of 6G? Main requirements: coverage. It needs to really penetrate the coverage. Very, very high capacity data rate to each user. So I hope you understand that as a network or a system, I can get some data rate, but as the end user, the data rate becomes a little low because of interference and noise. So the data rate that comes to the user if it is very high, then the user or the consumer is going to be very, very happy, right? And all this 6G wants to do at very high moving speed. So I'm not going to be limited. That's what I was telling you a while back. We don't want to go from basement to the terrace running, looking for network. That's not going to happen in 6G. You can be wherever you are. You can move as fast as you can. Internet will be provided to you, right? So you can imagine the complexity. It's easier said than done, but you can understand the complexity of whatever we are trying to do through 6G. For all this, you need very, 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 very high bandwidth. So we're going to move from millimeter waves to what is known as terahertz range. Therefore, the bandwidth which we will get will be TBPS, very, very high bandwidth, and we are talking in terms of thousands of gigahertz, tens of terahertz. The user experience, the data rate is just going to be increasing tenfolds. So we're going to be looking at scenarios like this, as I was mentioning to you. You're going to be on the road, you could be inside your house, you could be in a forest, you could be in an ocean, you could be in the desert, doesn't matter. 6G will penetrate and will give you the required internet wherever you are. So the coverage will become broader, the coverage will become deeper, and the bandwidth will increase 10 times. So it's just going to be very, very huge. Right? So you can already imagine the kind of complexity which we will see, because now we are moving from gigahertz frequency towards terahertz frequency, and there are going to be a lot of complex issues there. So what are the other requirements of 6G? So I've just highlighted these requirements. Of course, the bandwidth will be one. Intelligent network, how the network would be intelligent, how to really handle this massive data that each user presents, right? This is what is known as big communication, right? Big comm. How are you going to really take care of this, massive amount of data? New technologies in terms of computing. Right now, we only talk about cloud computing, but 6G is going to really ask us to jump from this cloud computing towards edge computing, wherein each and every mobile phone will be good at computing. Right now, we are dependent on certain servers to do the computing for us, whereas in 6G, the device itself will be smart enough to perform the computations. So that will be the advancement in terms of 6G. There'll be blockchain, there'll be cyber security. There's a new concept of swarm intelligence which has come in. So these are all research open problems and issues by themselves. So these are some of the requirements of 6G. If you compare the previous generations with 6G, the rate is very, very high. The maximum rate as of now, which we can get through 5G, is somewhere around 40 Gbps. What we are envisioning is 100 Gbps from 6G. The frequency which we are getting in 5G, the maximum frequency is about 90 gigahertz. We are expecting 10 terahertz. So that's a lot of frequency. We'll get security, secrecy. There are a lot of things which that last particular column is showing you, which is mostly very high frequency and very intelligent kind of system, right? What are the applications of 6G? This is something again to motivate all the participants, because I saw that most of them are on the younger side. So they will be the end users of the applications of 6G. So we have AR or VR, augmented reality, virtual reality. These are considered to be the most important applications of 5G. But because of this increase in computation power and the requirement, we're going to see holographic communication as the most important application of 6G. This is a done deal. There's no research on this. This is established. Hologram or holographic communication will be one of the most important applications of 6G. The industries have told us that. The white papers are already published on that, and there's a lot of work which is going on in terms of holographic communication. Right? So there are a lot of industries which are looking for people, who are really capable, who would, be in a position to, give a lot of inputs in terms of holographic communication. So we're looking at, these kind of applications. So I put these diagrams so that you get motivated a little more. We're looking at, mixed reality, not just AR or VR. we're looking at holograms, we're looking at digital replica. That's something that is really going to happen. We're looking at these kind of applications, right? And for all these kind of applications, you can imagine the complexity, right? So I mentioned in the start of my presentation, these are certain things which we would have seen probably in movies, but they're all going to come true, right? But the complexity involved, the intelligence involved, the bandwidth involved is just huge. It will take time, but it's going to be with us very, very soon. In terms of some technological aspects, we're going to look at enhanced mobile broadband, which is there in 5G plus something. We're going to look at ultra low latency communication, but it's going to be ultra reliable as well. We're not just going to look at machine type communication. We're going to look at massive machine type communication, big communications for sure. We are going to look at ultra reliable low latency communication, but it's also going to be secure. Very important, we are going to look at 3D communications, and I will explain you what this 3D is. Right now, our communication is only 2D. We're only dealing with the person and the terrestrial aspects, and then we are going to look at unconventional data communication. I'll come to that. So, what are the trends and challenges? And this is where it becomes important for the participants who really are interested or get motivated in terms of reading and learning about 6G. There are various aspects and challenges which are there for 6G, and they are basically spread out as 3 new resources and 3 ING related technologies. So in terms of increasing technologies, you need expanding coverage, because now you're going to integrate the terrestrial communication with the satellite communication. So you're going to be on the ground, you're going to be on the satellite, and you're going to start to communicate, and you're going to start to switch over this terrestrial and satellite communication. So your entire architecture becomes 3-dimensional, right? We also want to increase the system capacity. So we'll see, I'll just point out on few of the aspects how to increase the capacity, and we want to add capabilities through artificial intelligence. What is new in terms of 6G? You're going to have new methods of using the spectrum, because there's going to be large amount of spectrum, terahertz. So we need to know how we can utilize this spectrum, and how we can manage this spectrum, and how we can share this spectrum. So sharing of the spectrum becomes very, very important for us. There's a new resource for modulation. I will touch upon that, which kind of modulation we can use. And then there's also a 3-dimensional architecture, which I will be talking about. Okay? So these are some of the challenges in terms of 6G. So I'm not going to explain you, the trends in detail, because the aim here is only to give you, the participants a motivation of where they can do a research in, or where they can read into, depending on their interest. So I'm just going to touch upon what is out there as an open problem, and where the work is required, right? So it is a known fact that satellite communication will achieve wider coverage, and the cost is also low. That's a known fact. So 6G thinks if it can integrate the satellite communication with the terrestrial mobile communication, it will get a very good communication system. So there's talk of integrated communication system, wherein we want to integrate the satellite communication with the mobile communication. There are problems, obviously, because which protocol you are going to use, right? So for example, your LAN connectivity, you are using your TCP/IP, you are happy with that, but now that's not going to be there, because you're somewhere there terrestrial, and later you just move, airborne, so satellite communication takes place. So we don't know about that. There's research going on with that, right? So what are the challenges? Of course, in any satellite communication, you're going to have Doppler shift or Doppler variation. There's going to be transmission delay, because you're up there satellite, and terrestrial Earth station is down here, the base station, so there's going to be delay. How you're going to integrate this satellite to satellite communication as well. That is also something which a lot of researchers are looking at. But basically, there's research going on how to integrate these two communication technologies, the terrestrial, the base station based, original wireless communication with the satellite communication, and what protocols and what interoperability to use. So this is a kind of system that researchers and industries are looking at. There's a very important and good aspect of RIS which has come out, reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, where the surface itself is intelligent. It stores all the information for you. You can use it as an antenna. Right, I'll come to that. You can use certain metamaterial surfaces or materials to actually make these RISs. So you'll see lots and lots of articles, lots of research going on in this RIS. These are nothing but intelligent surfaces. The next obviously is spectrum, and personally I'm working on the spectrum. There are lots and lots of issues on spectrum, because you're dealing with a very high spectrum, terahertz, which is somewhere between 0.1 to 10 terahertz. So there's a lot of bandwidth which you have, but how to use it efficiently, how to share it efficiently, that becomes a very important aspect. The other important aspect is in terms of modulation, because your baseband frequency is somewhere between kilohertz, right? But then you're modulating the signal so that you can use a higher frequency channel, and then you can communicate it, and then later at the receiver you're demodulating. But now the question is, do we have a modulator that can operate in terahertz, right? So that is something which calls for research. You need to design a modulator which can work efficiently in terahertz region. Therefore, you can take the baseband communication and directly convert it into a terahertz carrier wave. Generate a carrier wave and then do the modulation and have a terahertz modulated signal. Is that possible? We don't know. Research is going on, right? So terahertz communication has its pros and cons. Of course, bandwidth provided will be very high, but then there are certain issues there, most specifically about interference, because you are really high up in the frequency, right? So there are two kinds of suggestions on terahertz: solid state terahertz and spatial direct modulation. Of these, the spatial direct modulation is the one where a lot of research is going on, where people are really working on modulators which would work on terahertz frequency, right? So you take the baseband frequency, generate a carrier wave which is at terahertz, do your modulation, and then the demodulation and the other. What are the challenges? Many challenges. Channel modeling is one of the most popular one among this. There's MIMO, which can be done, which antenna to use. Bandwidth enhancement, like I said, there's a lot of bandwidth available, but are we in a position to use them properly, manage them, share them? We do not know. Cognitive radio is something which goes on in 5G, but I highly doubt if cognitive radio would be applicable in 6G, because the systems would increase many-fold. So cognitive radio, I'm sure everyone is aware, it basically allows multiple systems to share the bandwidth or the spectrum. There's a new technique of symbiotic radio which has come in, which is an extension of the cognitive radio, which basically says that the subsystems of multiple systems can share the bandwidth. So you're giving one more layer of sharing, which is available to the subsystems, right? So in that sense, symbiotic radio is something which is very new. And if someone wants to pick up work on symbiotic radio, it's an extension of cognitive radio, but there's a lot of scope, lot of open problems on symbiotic radio. This is a slide which will tell you that a lot of work has been done, and Samsung is one of the industries which has really picked up on working on 6G, and the one in Bangalore, the Samsung in Bangalore, they are really working on towards 6G, and they've already published a lot of white papers, and very soon we'll see many more papers from them. So they have already established that terahertz is the frequency which will be used for 6G. Okay? And they've also given the structure of how the base station would look like, how the communication would happen based on artificial intelligence. So there's a very good white paper by Samsung, which was published in July 2020. If you pick it up and read it, it's also mentioned in my references. It will really give you an insight into 6G and the technologies. So this is what I was saying, that you could use antennas and systems like this. You have meta surface lenses. You also have some kind of material antennas or lenses which can actually be used. So of course, I'm not going into the detail of these kind of lenses and this kind of antenna, but they are they are research based. They are research based antennas and lenses by themselves. So anyone can pick it up and do a lot of work on these kind of antennas, these kind of systems by themselves, right? In terms of modulation, if there are participants who like to read about modulation and want to work on the higher levels of modulation, there's a new kind of modulation which has been proposed. It is known as orbital angular momentum, and it basically is based on the fact that your electromagnetic waves not only have linear momentum, they actually also have angular momentum. So with this, you can have a helical phase, a wavefront, and this is a new resource which can be used for modulation in wireless communication. Of course, easier said than done. Again, there's a lot of work which is going on in orbital angular momentum. So I'll just show you a diagram of how the OAM would look like. The phase is going to be helical. It's going to be very, very complex, but it gives an extra dimension to increase the spectral efficiency, to increase the bandwidth. There are issues, of course. I'll go back to the slide. There are issues again. You're going to have misalignment of the transceiver, which is a basic issue in any modulation. Usually happens during the demodulation. You have an issue of beam divergence. How are you going to transmit the signals? There are numerous issues if you go in here. For participants who would be interested in OAM, it would take you more towards, of course, electromagnetics, more towards physics as well. So you can pick OAM as something to read about and research about if you're interested. Next is capacity, very important. How to increase the capacity of 6G? We're saying that 6G is going to increase the capacity. We want high capacity from 6G, but how are we actually going to increase the capacity? We'll not be in a position to just keep splitting the cells to an infinity level, because it is going to approach the system capacity limit. So what is the other way of doing it? So the other way of doing it is actually proposed in 5G, which is known as ultra dense network. But 6G will provide what is known as user centric ultra dense network, where the dense networking which 5G talks about will become user centric. So the system will be able to monitor each and every user in a very dense network. So in a populated country like India, this system would really be helpful, because you have many users into a very dense network, and with AI, machine learning, other intelligent algorithms and systems, you'll be able to monitor them, right? You need a lot of bandwidth, obviously. You need a lot of smart systems. Challenges immense. What is the architecture which is going to be used? What is the management of the mobility? Because user is not going to be static. He or she is going to keep moving. How are you going to manage the interference between the users? Because now it's a very, very dense network. How are you going to manage the resource, the spectrum? And how are you going to manage the security? In this dense network, anyone gives an alarm, how are you going to manage it? Right? So there are lots and lots of issues on the ultra dense network. It is also known as decellular. So you can look out for decellular and see what are the issues. Next comes artificial intelligence. For the next decade or so, if I'm not wrong, people have different perspective, but for the next decade, according to me, AI is there. It's not a new concept. It's been there. It's only now that we have realized how AI can be used in our systems. So just knowing about AI, reading about it is not enough. We need to know the application of AI. So how AI can be used. So in this case of 6G, AI will be helpful to make the network, the 6G network, a user central network, which user will be important. The content network, data will be important, and data centralized. So the data is going to be playing a major role in 6G, and AI is going to help us do that. There are immense amount of challenges in terms of AI being used for 6G. cloud computing may not be sufficient in 6G, so we'll definitely have to move to edge computing. For the younger participants here, if you start working on edge computing and if you know a lot about edge computing, it will really help you, be a notch up in the industry as well as the academics. So I really would suggest that you start reading about this edge computing, because this is where the industry is headed in terms of networking. The convergence issues are going to be there. Earlier, the convergence issues were only static, but now with 6G, it will become dynamic. There will be flexibility. Of course, hardware is always going to be a constraint, because please remember, we are talking in terms of terahertz. It's going to be very, very large frequency. So the diagram, the structure, architecture looks something like this. In 4G, we had the computing capability, which was done on the cloud. Again, in 5G, you had computing capability, which was done on cloud. We called it edge computing. But 5G is not able to provide that edge computing. So 6G will be the one which will really provide edge computing, where your devices, the mobile phones, will start to compute for us, right? And then you have various other devices where, like a low computing power mobile device, a high computing power base station. So 6G will also be able to do a computing which will be known as split computing. It will segregate the high power devices and the low power devices, and then make the calculations accordingly. Probably the last one, which I think would be very important in terms of 6G, would be the management of mobility and the intelligence, a 3D architecture, a three-dimensional architecture, because we are going to integrate the terrestrial mobile communication, terrestrial wireless mobile communication, with satellite mobile communication. And here mostly we will use the low Earth orbit or the medium Earth orbits. So how we are going to integrate the two, right? Because earlier, or the existing ones are 2D network architectures. So you have terrestrial system which is separate, and you have the satellite system which is separate. They are independent, but now we are talking about integrating them. So this integration will generate new ideas, will require new technologies in terms of computing, navigation, perception. So how we are going to be providing high-speed mobile communication, high computational mobile systems, that remains to be seen. But that's the aim of this 3D architecture. So the challenges would be in terms of network resource utilization, and mostly by resource we mean spectrum frequency. How these protocols will interoperate. There's a protocol different for terrestrial communication, there's a protocol different for satellite. How can you have a protocol which would interoperate? This is a research which very much in demand. So can we have like a protocol which would help us operate both terrestrial as well as satellite communication, right? And then what will happen to the network nodes? What will happen to the network users? Because you're talking about terrestrial and satellite communication. So these are some of the issues which are there and which need to be solved. Researchers are looking for answers to these kind of questions very rigorously. So this is one of the diagrams which has emerged of an AI-enabled 6G wireless communication, and you can see everything is smart, everything is intelligent. So you're going to have beamforming, but it's going to be 5G beamforming. You can see that we're talking about terrestrial communication, and then we'll also be talking about satellite communication. There's talk of small cells, macro cells. The vehicles are going to be, the electric vehicles would come by then. They'll be autonomous. You'll have a licensed spectrum which could be used. There would be an unlicensed spectrum which could be used. So there are a lot of issues there. So this is a flowchart which summarizes, depending on the interest of the scholar or the student, which are the topics which could be taken to read upon more and come up with solutions. So if you are looking for any kind of transmission, then you could go with terahertz band issues, energy harvesting issues, If you're looking for any energy efficient communication, again, energy harvesting comes into the picture. Wireless power charging comes into the picture. There you could talk about microwave radiation, laser charging, so on and so forth. If you are interested in AI, then we are talking about operational intelligence, intelligence in terms of environment, in terms of service. You could go in for security and privacy. So you're looking at cyber security, blockchain, quantum key distribution. So QKD is something which is also gaining a lot of momentum. So there, depending on your interest, you could pick and choose these these kind of topics. You can read more and then try to give more solutions out of it. So this is again a summary. I thought a summary would be good for the participants so that they can come to know which area they could focus on. So there's a lot of areas which are there. There are a lot of open problems which are there to be solved. A very emerging area which has come about is bio internet of things. Okay. The other one which you would have heard of is federated learning, which is already there, but an improved version would be applicable in 6G. Quantum machine learning, this is a very new concept. That is something that the participants could pick on. This is again a summary, so I will be sharing the slides and you can go through the summary and the participants can pick and choose on which area, because it's massive. The amount of research open areas are just massive, and it's not possible for anyone to really focus on all these parts. So it's always suggested to take one part and then go deep into it. So what is the roadmap and suggestion for 6G? The ITU has already started the work. So the 5G is already getting standardized. It's already standardized. It will get deployed. It's getting deployed. 6G has started. So by 2024 or 2026 is when ITU and the other bodies are trying to fix up or standardize 6G. And once the standardization is over, probably the deployment would start somewhere between 2028 to 2030. So you can imagine by the time we reach 2027-28, there would already be talk about probably 7G or probably 8G. So that's how quickly the generations of wireless technology are actually changing. So this is a very hot topic, so to say, and a lot of open problems. So you can pick up a lot of problems and try to give solutions. So in conclusion, 6G will give us very high capability compared to 5G. It will give us a 3D architecture where the mobile communication, the terrestrial mobile communication will connect with or integrate with the with the satellite communication system. We're going to be using a lot of artificial intelligence, machine learning as applicable, and ultimately 6G is going to look at making our human society a very smart or intelligent mobile society, and this will cover the entire globe, the entire part of the earth, which 5G is aiming, but most probably will not be able to. So these are some of the references which I've picked up. Reference number 2 is a very good reference. It's a white paper from Samsung, makes a lot of things clear. Of course, from July 2020 till now, there have been a lot of articles on 6G. Most of them have been surveys giving their own perspectives, but as such, work and solutions on a particular area is something which I have not seen. So still research is only at a very nascent state, very beginning state. So there are a lot of things that can be done by people who would be interested in this, right? So this is my contact. I'll be very glad to help anybody. You can contact me through an official mail, or you can contact me through a personal mail. I've only given a perspective of 6G with the open problems. I'm personally, as I mentioned in the during the course of the presentation, I'm working on spectrum management and spectrum sharing. That has been my research for a very long time. I was doing that for optical networks, but then very recently I've moved into 6G. That's a very current topic. So I've worked a lot on flexible optical networks and optical networks using space division multiplexing. Again, there I was working on capacity and spectrum sharing and management. But now I found 6G very interesting because it's going to be there for a very long time with us. So I thought of moving. I suggest that the younger people really start reading about this, so you'll get a lot of idea about this. Okay. So that's it from my side. There's a lot of information available. I could have gone on and on, but I thought I will just touch upon the important facts, important open problems for research, and give all the participants some motivation. So this is all from my side. Now I'm open to any kind of questions, not just from 6G, any other questions in terms of research and other things are also okay with me. So thank you. Over to the coordinator.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful session. This session was very informative. Thank you, sir. Wonderful presentation. Students, if you have any queries, you can.
Any participants can ask me any other kind of questions as well in related to research.
Sir, I have one question, sir. Sir, basically, I am a research scholar. Just now started my research. I just started last September. I researched in Christ University, Bangalore. Sir, actually, the 4G technology supported to the OFDM waveform, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
What about 5G, sir? Which waveform is suitable for 5G technology, sir?
That's a good question. 5G again, sir, on paper. We're only talking about paper. Actually, for these generations, for any generation, there's a lot of specifications which are standardized and they remain on paper. But the actual ones we come to know once they have been deployed and used for at least 2 to 3 years. That is what I have experienced. So in terms of 5G, again, it will be OFDM. But how efficient it would be in terms of the bandwidth usage and the sharing of the spectrum, that remains to be seen. There's also a talk of using Nyquist OFDM, which really cuts the spectrum into finer granularities. It is used in optical networks, but whether that would be used in 5G or not, that remains to be seen. But on paper, it is, as you mentioned, it is OFDM that would be used.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So many papers suggested the various waveforms, universal filter bank, UFMC, and filter bank multi-carrier, and filtered OFDM. Different kind of waveform is supported to 5G. The variety of papers is mentioning that. So this is the area my research.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. I mean, on paper, sir, it happens with absolutely all the research, especially networking research. You can keep, adding a lot of things because your simulation would be, using some kind of software. So you can add, newer technologies like a filter bank, XYZ filter bank, this waveform, XYZ waveform, and try to see the improvement in the results. But the actual thing happens is after the deployment, and that too, wait for at least 1 or 2 years and see whether that is actually working or not. Because it really ultimately it boils down to the comfort of the consumers in terms of wireless technology.
Thank you, sir. Students, if you have any queries. Okay, if no queries, can you wind up the session, sir?
Yeah, surely, sir, surely. I hope I've given some kind of motivation to the students.
Yes, sir. I am also expecting.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, sir, at the start, usually when we talk about these kind of topics,
Sir,
students usually think
sir, once,
that,
yes, sir. Sir, one student
yes.
asked.
Yeah. Okay. It's in the chat box. Okay. I should have seen that. I heard that NASA team says Nokia is a brain coach. I have read about it, but I'll be very honest. I have not really seen about it. I'm not into what NASA does. I'm more of a communication person. But really, I will also have to read about that. I have read about it, but I don't know the details. So I really don't want to comment on it.
Any questions? Participants listen. I will share the feedback form to chat box. All of you please fill that. I invite Rakesh give the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I take the opportunity to thank Dr. Sridhar Iyer for this informative session on 6G wireless technology. I hope my fellow friends are motivated by this session. I would also like to thank Principal, HOD and the management of Jodhi Engineering College for providing this platform. Last but not the least, I would also like to thank Mr. Ponmani Raja, Assistant Professor ECE, and Mrs. Sarida P, Assistant Professor ECE, the staff coordinators. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of EC department, on behalf of the Jodhi Engineering, my heartfelt thanks to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, I will collect the certificate and I will send you.
Okay, sir. Yes. Can I leave now?
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.